Good morning, folks. Welcome to Business by Nature. I'm Natalie Kent, creator of Sacred Business and the Natural Cycle Planner and the Creator Types. If you haven't heard of the Creator Types yet, that's okay. We're going to be talking about them today, a particular aspect around communication. But you might like to click the hashtag Creator Types above this post, and it links back to all the other posts I've done on the creator types, so you can start to fill in the blanks if you're brand new to them. So how do the creator types help us in business? Well, it guides us to create by our own nature. Everybody is different, and I mean everybody. No body is the same, but there are similarities between bodies which reflect certain nature states, like volcanoes, rivers, lightning, whirlwinds, fire, you name it. So that's how the creator types work. We look at your physical structure and shape, how you cycle energy through your body, and that then determines or is expressed through you in how you create. So you might be a fast creator, a slow creator, someone who works like in a circular motion when they're creating, someone who works in bursts. If you know that you have a particular creation style, you are halfway there to becoming a natural creator. And for those of you out there who don't feel like a business owner, or perhaps there's a reason for that, because I believe and I feel and I've seen a new wave of creators, natural creators coming. And these are the creators of the new earth. So business, the old school way, doesn't fit for a lot of people. And if that's you, then you're in the right place. You're amongst friends here. So if you're here live, say hi in the comments. Let me know you're here. I'm using some new software where I have to go back and check the comments. It's a bit annoying, but that's because Facebook keeps changing their algorithms. So I'm going to do that now. But yes, please just ask questions as we go along today, because this is meant to be interactive. We are having an interaction as much as possible over the ethers. So what does today's topic mean? Hang on, let me just check who's here, because I can't get this screen down. One moment, please. Here we go. Oh, Nikki's here. Hey, Nikki from NZ. You're here with us live. Goody. Okay, so we only have one person at the moment. So Jillian's driving, I know that much. And who knows who else might be here today. If you are listening in later after this live show, you can still ask questions in the thread, make comments, and I will respond later on. So the topic today, how to communicate for maximum impact. What does maximum impact mean? Well, for a start, we're talking about communication because we are now in Gemini, which is the cycle of communication. But maximum impact means, well, it could mean many things, but what we're focusing on today is how are we going to reach the maximum number of people according to their communication styles. Now, what often happens is people communicate in their own style and they don't adapt their style for who they're communicating with. They only communicate for one style, so that only reaches people of that style. And that's why marketing messages can get lost on people, because they may not understand the language that you use. It may not land for them what you're talking about. It may not be relatable. And maximum impact in this context means that it actually lands in their bodies. So when a message lands in your body, it becomes real. It's not just a thought. It's not just out there in the ether. It's not something that may come and go depending on where their attention is. It's actually landed in the body, which means that it can take root and it can magnetize things that is going to serve that person closer, pull those experiences in. That means your products and services, if they're a match with that person. So if you've communicated the value of your offerings with someone and it lands in their bodies, you can really work with that. It means that you've reached them on the most basic level, fundamental level. That's where all marketers want to reach the body, but most only target the mind. So this means that we actually need to take into account creator types. When we're talking to people of different types and styles of communication, and we're aiming to speak to their bodies so that our message registers with them on a physical level, then we need to take into account the main types of creators that there are. So we're going to talk about those today, the 4 families of creator types. Nikki's saying, I'm wanting to change my communication to resonate more with several groups of women and where they are at in their life cycle and stages. Oh, brilliant. You obviously knew to tune in today, Nikki. This is good. So I'll be interested to see if this helps for you today. So I'm going to give an example of my own experience and relating to my family. So we all come from a family of sorts. We have a family of origin, whether they're a blood family or not. And that family becomes the context of your nuclear world, your little nucleus of your world, your relatable experience from your upbringing. And so the types of creators that you have in your family are going to have quite an impact on you, and particularly in terms of communication. Now, my family, I'm a lava type, so I'm the volcanic fiery type. And in my family, my sister is a sun, so she's also a fire type. Both my parents are air types, so I have my dad's lightning and my mum's whirlwind. So if you look at that straight up, firstly, my family unit of 4, my immediate family, is fire and air. No earth and water. All fire and air. And what's interesting about this is that whirlwind, sun, and lightning are all up there in the sky. I'm the only one on earth, down on earth, holding these 3. I'm the boring earthy one, because volcano does have some earth, so lava does have some earth, obviously. And so I'm the only one on the ground. All of them, they're all up here. So that's been my relatable experience in terms of communication, and certainly I've done it very poorly in many cases in terms of trying to reach those people of those types. So if you've come from a family with certain types, you're going to be really good, maybe, but possibly really bad at communicating with those types. It might have been a really challenging thing for you to do, is to actually reach your family members in a way that they can understand what you're saying. They can understand and relate to you, which is get your message across. That's what we all want to do, whether it's personal or professional. That's what we want to do with our communication. It needs to be relatable. When people relate to you, they like you as well. They feel akin to you in some way. So in marketing, that's what a lot of marketers aim for, especially the ones that talk a lot about their personal lives. And they just really, they play on the drama of life, which is nothing wrong with that, but that's actually what makes them relatable to people or a particular type of audience. So good question to ask yourself now is, how relatable are you to your tribe, to your audience? Hello, Priscilla's here. Cool. Well, communication is the theme for today, Priscilla, so I'm sure you have lots to share on this one. So we're talking about how different creator types relate, communicate to one another. So I'm using my family unit as an example, and you might get a sense of, if you're familiar with the 12 creator types, what types you have in your family. Because we all inherently have this ability to read bodies and sense whether someone's earthy, watery, fiery, airy, that is within us innately. So in my family, I have lightning, whirlwind, me, the volcano, and my sister, the sun. So communicating with each of those types, let's go into that for a moment. So, how does a volcano communicate with lightning? Well, for one, one's up in the sky, so we have to take that into account. Straight away, any type that is in the sky is going to be more challenging to reach because they sit away from everyone else on the earth. So there has to be some kind of connection point. Now, when lightning strikes, obviously it strikes the earth, but it is looking for a connection point. It's looking to earth itself. So it will find the nearest object, the tallest object, whether it's a tree, a steel rod, or it could be a person. It will find that conductor to reach the earth. Now, that's what you need when you're dealing with a lightning type. So when I explode and go into my disaster state as lava around my dad, who's a lightning type, he withdraws, goes straight up into the clouds, back into his safe zone up there as lightning. And my lava doesn't even impact him. It doesn't even reach him. So he goes, and in the body, he goes straight up into his head. That's where he goes. In the head, in the thoughts, looking down, going, what's she doing that for? I don't get it. I don't feel it. She looks to me like she's having a meltdown of sorts, but he's not receiving it. So I actually have to make a conductor between us so that my communication is received by him. So usually I have to create some kind of mental translation rather than an emotional outburst for him to connect with that mental construct. Because that's the thing about lightning types, is they are in their heads. That's where they come from. That's why they're in the clouds. They're in their heads and they theorize about life. So that's their disaster state, is they become theorists, academics, if you like, about life. They are removed and they just create their own theories about why this happened and that happened. So very intellectualizing what is going on rather than feeling it. So that's lightning and lava together. So that might give you some sense of how two types can connect or not. Then we have whirlwind and lava, my mum and I. So whirlwind, of course, is that upward thrust of movement to the sky once again, but there is a touchdown point at the base of the whirlwind, as long as they're not in disaster state where they go into hurricane mode, and that means they become a force unto themselves and sort of lose control of this circular motion that isn't really going anywhere fast. And so whirlwind and lava communicating together, the way I have to communicate with my mum as a whirlwind is at that point of connection at the earth. So I have to cycle her thoughts down to that connection point. So what actually does touch down for her? What makes sense to her? What is earthed about what I'm saying or trying to get across in her experience? Through her lens of the world, what is that one touchdown point? So I have to speak to that because I'm on the earth. I can't go up there if I'm lava. So again, it's this process of translation. And sometimes you have to meet someone where they're at, up in the clouds, and bring them down if you're on earth. If you're up there with them, great. You're going to get along like a house on fire. So that's just an example of a couple examples of one-to-one communication. I'll also share the example of my sister who's a sun. Now, lava and sun both being fire types, that's good. They have that in common. And by the way, fire and air go together. You know, they fuel each other. It's a natural thing for them to build energy off one another. So they use each other as fuel, and so the energy can build between fire and air very naturally. Now, when I'm communicating with sun, so the thing about sun types is they're big, their energy is big, and their boundaries are big. They're way out there. Now, not only are they in the sky, but they're out there in terms of it's very challenging sometimes to reach their core because their energy is so radiant, so big. You actually have to work step by step. You have to find an in with them to get to the center of the sun. Because otherwise it's just noise out here and you're not going to really get a response from them. Unless it's some kind of shiny new object that they want to be a part of. But if you actually want to get a message across that is meaningful and not necessarily flashy and exciting, because that's what suns love. They love like more sun, give me more rays, I want to radiate. They want bigger and better, grander all the time. You have to find your in. So somehow they have to drop the bigness to let someone in and reach them. So if you're a sun type, you might relate to this. And you might want to ask the question, okay, so how easy is it for people to reach me? Not only are you in the sky, but they've got to get a long way to get right to the center. So it can be challenging, you know, and sometimes with a sun type, you have to wait for the opening because otherwise your communication is just getting buffered around the edges. It's not going in. And you'll notice it. They'll look like, well, that was kind of water off a duck's back. That didn't really go anywhere, did it? So with optimists, and these lightning and sun types are both optimists, sometimes you need a translator because they're in the sky. Who's the conductor? What's the conductor for you to reach them? Priscilla, so being soil and Leo, that's a curious combo then. Yeah, well, again, I don't know. That's an interesting one, but I wouldn't put too much stock in you being in Leo. See, this is the thing about astrology and creator types, is that astrology, just knowing your sun sign or your moon sign, is just so skimming the surface. It doesn't indicate how much of fire or air or water you're really actually carrying in your body. So that's the question I'd have for you, Priscilla, is how fiery do you feel in your body? Because that's the real indicator is, you know, astrology is great as a blueprint up here, but in the body, it's a different story. So how are you going to work with those energies up there, that blueprint, so to speak, here in the physical? So know what elements you're drawing on. Are you really drawing on your most natural elements that are innately in you, the strongest in you? And we all have elements that are stronger than the other. Still haven't met anyone who's balanced across all elements. So there's an example of a family unit. It's a great place to start with looking at your communication, because this is what you know. This is where you've come from. You've either learnt from that experience and become a great communicator with those types, or perhaps you're still a bad communicator because you haven't realized what dynamic is actually going on, and that you have to master your style as a way of creating any sense of connection and harmony in the family. So this is all about embodying your natural state. How much can you embody your natural state when you are speaking, and using terminology that speaks to your creator types? So, for example, using terminology or phrasing that expresses to certain types. So if I'm speaking to lightning, I want to talk about directness, precision, strategy, getting from A to B in the most efficient route. They're all lightning terms that a lightning type is going to get straight up. That's how they think. So this can be especially useful if you're having one-to-one conversations with people like prospective customers. So you need to actually get across to them what you can offer, as well as whether they can receive it, whether it's actually what they need. This is key. Those one-to-one conversations can mean the difference between making a sale or not. You must be able to communicate in a way that they can receive and listen and hear. So using descriptive words by the type is really helpful as well. But let's talk about marketing in general when you're marketing to masses. So in your sales copy, for example, on your website, if you're speaking to groups, when it's one-to-many, how do you do this? Well, you want to cover all bases. And you might have seen that marketers out there speak about this. They speak about the different types of people that you're speaking to, and that you must actually cover all bases in order to be effective in your marketing. A lot of people leave certain aspects out. So certain types of people just don't get it. They haven't been catered to. What a shame. So humanists are tree, ocean, and lake. So if you're one of those types, or you know one of those types, listen in. So if you need to speak to a humanist, you want to make things relationship-based. So you want to talk about benefits to relationships. You want to talk about quality of life, because humanists are motivated by bonding and by improving life for all people. You know, they're the ones that are really connected to, at the end of the day, what's business actually about? What are these, you know, what is this product or service actually going to do for me or for the people I care about? It's about people. So you must be speaking at that level. Hey, Rachel. Yes, you're late, but it's all good. Yes, so we're talking about the four aspects, four creative families, and how you speak to them in your marketing. If you're marketing anything at all, one-to-many, you've got to cover all types in how you communicate. So again, we're looking at backing on from last week when we talked about the different creative families and what motivates them. What are their values? What matters to them? That's really important. So in your marketing, you've got to speak to those values. Humanists, motivated by bonding, motivated by, you know, the greater good. That's their kind of, that's what they want. They feel that connection with people and the impact that your product or service has on the people that they care about. So you want to speak to that. With catalysts, this is the fire types, lava and whirlwind. So catalysts are motivated by risk. They love living on the edge. They want constant change. They get bored very easily. So you can speak to them by speaking to what is actually revolutionary or on the cutting edge about your work or what you're offering. And certainly you should be aiming for this anyway. So this is really looking at the holistic perspective of what you're offering. You want to cover all these bases in your offers. So we have, with catalysts, you want to speak about the change. You want to speak about how much things are going to change for them when they buy a product or service. What's the big deal? What's really different about this? What's revolutionary about it? Why is it so special or unique or, you know, a standout in the marketplace? Speak to that. That will get them interested. Also, with optimists, they're a similar breed in the sense that they love to be on that edge, but theirs is a little bit different. So they're really wanting things to be grand and idealistic. The catalysts, by comparison, are more so anarchists, really. You know, they actually want confrontation. They want things to be a little bit edgy. Optimists, on the other hand, so we're talking about sun, lightning, and snow. These guys, they want things to be more idealistic. You know, optimists want things to be nice and harmonious and happy, and they're very idealistic in that way. So, and they're looking for grand scale change. You know, they do think big. So if you look at all those three types, snow, lightning, and sun, they're very expansive. In the sky, man. No limits. So that's how they're motivated. They're motivated by hope, by new horizons, brighter futures. So you've got to speak to that idealist in them. And it's okay if it's not realistic. That's what idealism is, and that's what's going to speak to them. Speak in idealist terms. You know, might sound really far-fetched, but they're going to get it, and they go, ooh, that feels good. They're optimists, remember? Is this making sense? We've got a few more people who've joined us. Jay's here. Cool, cool. We have a sun in the... Oh, we have 2 suns, Rachel, as well. 2 suns and 2 soils. So that's good. We're going to get to soils now in the realist category. So realists, in your marketing, this is what a lot of marketing obviously aims to do, is to talk about tangible results. A lot of people don't do that well, mind you, but it's certainly taught a lot, especially in terms of dollars. You know, what's the dollar value that you're going to get out of this when you pay for something? So realists want to know that stuff. They want to know the TikTok tangible outcomes. You know, how many dinner plates am I going to get out of this? How many dollars in the bank? You know, how am I going to get a piece of paper that says I'm certified? That's what a realist wants. It's not enough for them to just, you know, put money on the line and not get something that's valuable out of it. Valuable, tangibly valuable. Something usually that they can touch and count. So the soils especially are the bean counters of all of the creator types, because they work at the granular level of the ground, of soil, working with each grain. That's what builds foundation for them. So realists want to know the resources that they're going to get out of their purchase. So you've got to speak to that. It's not always going to be financial, but there has to be something that they can touch and tick off. It has to be something that they can actually go, yep, this is what I got out of that. The others are more about experience. They want to have a great experience, especially optimists. They want to have a great time. You know, of course, if they're coupled with a more realist type, or they have a particular outcome in mind that they want, it will be an idealistic one usually, then they're going to be more motivated by the outcome. But generally speaking, realists are the ones who are more about the outcome than the experience. So it's a big deal for a realist to put money on the line. Just remember that, because they're very conscious about money. They often, realists can count every dollar. Like, they're very on top of their finances in that way. They're very aware of what it takes to put food on the table, shelter, all those things that, for example, optimists, they don't even think about. It's just like, yep, money comes and goes. I spend it. I don't spend it. You know, it's always there. Very different attitude to money. So in our marketing, our communication, we're asking people to spend money, essentially. Not always asking directly, but that's where it's leading. So we got to keep all this in mind. Who are we speaking to here? Very different groups of people. So tell me, is this helpful? Are you aware of how you communicate, whether it's in your, you know, official marketing or one-to-one with people? When you're just talking to people, are you aware of your communication, whether it's actually reaching them? Are you aware of how they're thinking and adapting your style of sales in some cases? Sometimes you might be actually having a sales conversation. Not that I have those official sales conversations, but, you know, conversations where someone's interested in your product or service and you're actually talking to them about it. So there's money that's on the table to be spent potentially. So those conversations, you've got to know, who are you talking to? What motivates them? Let's hear it. Let's hear. Oh, Cherie's here. Hello, Cherie. Are there any creator types that need to know the how of what we do? Yeah, so, well, it's a good question. So there's two angles, really. It's a good one. One angle is, okay, so there's the how in terms of proving yourself so that you can actually give them the result they desire. So that would be a more realist thing. So that's soil, river, and mountain types. So they're more interested in the how, but only because they want to know that the result is guaranteed or likely, you know, to occur. Then there's the other angle of the how, which is the experience. So the other types want to know more about the experience, especially the fire and air types. So your catalysts and your optimists, they're more interested in the experience. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I will mention that, being earth and water, humanists as well are concerned with the outcome, but they're more concerned about the people aspect. So the people in the process as well as the outcome. How people are affected, how their relationships will be affected. Like if you're having a sales conversation with a humanist, you've got to take into account their significant others when you're having that conversation. How is this purchase going to affect them? How's it going to change their relationships? And often you've got to give them, time to actually go and check with their spouse or their loved ones, or find out what the impact might be on their kids or their friends or whatever, or their community. So these are community-minded people. So, yes, good. Okay, got it. Great. Glad that's useful. Priscilla, yes, it's all making sense considering who I know in the other areas. Cool. Yes, so the more you get to know and sense what motivates your tribe, your audience, different people that you're speaking to, the more you can cater your communication style to them, and you can build a rapport much easier. You're speaking their language. So if I'm a lava type, unless someone has come to me and because they want lava specifically, they want that catalyst in me to catalyze them, then I've got to still translate. I've got to translate into their language in terms of outcomes, tangible results, money on the table, all that stuff. Really speak at that level. Got to adapt my communication for that person. So other times people just want to hear you talking in your style because they know that's what they want, and they want to just commune and immerse with that style, that energy of lava. So Nikki's saying, yes, great insights. Cool. Rachel, is there any clear way to know what type people you may be speaking to? So the easiest way is to get a sense of, so the easiest way is to get a sense of which element is strongest in them. Earth, air, fire, water. Are they really earthy type? Earthy types tend to be solid in their bodies. Fire types and air types tend to be lighter, more dynamic. They move around a lot in their bodies. Watery types, they might have a lot of tissue in their bodies, so they might also be very tactile as well. So that's what humanists are. They like to bond with people. So there's a lot of cues like that, but most importantly, you'll get an innate sense the more you get in a sense of your own nature in yourself. Not just your creator type, but the 4 elements in yourself. The more you can commune with fire and feel it in your body. A lot of people can't feel fire in their bodies. They just don't feel fire. But it's there, of course, it's just trapped. Feeling air, feeling the elements of water, communing with nature and seeing how your body responds. Then when you meet someone, you can feel it straight away. You can feel the water in them. You'll feel that magnetic pull. You'll feel the flow. Or you'll feel the solidity of the earth in them. And of course, there's other cues like, are they very practically minded? That's very earthy style. So there's lots you can look at. But I promise you, once you get on this wavelength of seeing people through this lens, you are absolutely going to be surprised at what you can pick up about people. It will just grow and improve in you over time. Nikki, we need your book. Yes, the book is coming. The book is coming. So I am writing a book on the 12 creator types. So all of this is in print and demystified. Priscilla, how do you check out the type when the client is remote? well, you can do what I do and get them to send a full body shot. But you're going to have to pick up other cues. So sense into their energy first and foremost, and pick up their cues in terms of what motivates them. You can even ask them questions around that. You know, what's important to you? What gets you up in the morning? What motivates you about your work? So you can sense from people's language and the responses they give what's important to them, what's innate in them. So you can become a real master of that with time. Is it related to how they speak? Would that help? Yes. So how they speak in terms of the tone of their voice, obviously earthy types, if they're in their bodies, it's a key point. A lot of people ain't in their bodies. They're up, they live from here up. When they're in their bodies, they have a deeper tone that kind of resonates. It's like and I'm really speaking of water and earthy types here. So it's like when you have amazing acoustics in a church, for example, where the sound vibrates off the walls and it's just incredible. So someone who is very earth and water types particularly, have that kind of quality of tone in their voice. Does that help, Priscilla? Also, they're slower movers than fire and air. I mean, that's the most obvious cue. Also, fire and air types tend to speak a bit faster. Their voice is a bit higher pitched. All sorts of cues. Great questions, though. I'll be keen to see how you test that out. So I'm going to leave you with one question today, and that is, who are you attracting? Who are you attracting in your marketing? Who is your customer base, your prospective customers out there? What types are you attracting? So for me, as an example, I tend to attract and keep the earthy, watery ones around me because they want my fire and air. Other fire and air types come to me to understand themselves, and then they go off and attract other water and earth types. They tend to stick. But of course we have this natural affinity of understanding, but we don't need to be in each other's presence that much because they've already got what I've got. Fire and air types, they've got what I've got. They don't need to be around me that much. Whereas earth and water types, they'll keep coming back for more because they don't have it strongly. Of course, we have all the elements in us, but they don't have it as strongly, so they want to be around the opposite. Does that make sense? Have you noticed this? Priscilla, yes, when I relate it to myself, I know the depth of tone in my voice. Yes, absolutely. You have it, especially when you're in circle, I notice. Nikki, can you attract your own creator type? Yes, you can, and I have. And what tends to happen is this is just what I've observed over the years, is they come and they want to get a direct reflection. They want to get that direct understanding of themselves. But once they have that, they go away and they create their own thing. They don't need me around long term. So we will naturally be drawn to people who are unlike us. Interestingly enough, they're the ones who tend to stick. Of course, we know straight up whether we meet someone like us and we go, oh, wow, it's an instant affinity that we have, instant rapport, can talk to each other. But there's not that glue in the same way. You know, it's kind of the yin-yang aspect of balance. So if you've got a lot of fire and air, you're going to be looking for the balance with earth and water and vice versa. So you have that glue to keep those people around you for the long haul. I have most of my clients who've long-term clients and customers who've just keep coming back, even years later. They tend to be earth and water. So that's interesting, isn't it? Nikki, so as a tree, who would I naturally attract, you think? Well, if you're a tree, so you're mostly earth, and I think your other type might be an air type, Nikki, because you're an airy tree. So you're going to attract water and fire types, potentially. So I'd like to see, you guys test this out as well. So I'm just speaking about my experience, but it makes sense. The opposites attract theory. So tree is an earth type, so you're going to attract the other elements. Priscilla, meeting the reflection can also be confrontational. Yeah, no shit. Yep, absolutely. I've had experiences with clients who are very like me, and it is confrontational because you got to look at yourself very closely with those people because you're being triggered. You're going, oh, well, I do that, and I do that, and I do that, and I do that. So I got to actually adjust myself before I'm mentoring them on how they can operate better. Good to know when dating. Yeah, Jay. So again, the creator types are great for dating. A few people have mentioned that over time. Maybe it's coming someday. I do have dreams of creating a Tinder version of, a creator type version of the Tinder app, so you can look up different creator types. It's funny, some people have said to me that they want to partner up with someone of the same type, and I'm like, oh my God, no way would I want that for myself. But it can happen. It can happen, and some people can handle it because that's what they want. They want that direct rapport, but it's going to be very triggering, and you're not going to have that balance that you would perhaps have with another type as a partnership. You would have to seek that balance outside of the relationship. So it's kind of this natural, the sameness creates an attraction and a repulsion at the same time. But of course, these are all constellations, and that's why I created the Creator Constitution, because you don't just have one type. It's, to work with. There are 4 types, 2 primary, 2 balancer types, and together they make up your primary constitution. So the strongest types in your nature that you have to work with. So what you'll find is when you are partnering romantically or friends or business partners, that there'll be some overlap in your constitutions. Same as astrology, oh, she has a Gemini sun and I have a Gemini moon. Wow. It's no coincidence. There has to be some sameness there. It's like I remember I went to a Leo, marrying a Leo one day, and a wedding, Leo marrying a Leo. So you can imagine the nature of that relationship, but they made it work, It's about awareness and what other balancing qualities you have in your nature to create that balance so that it doesn't just go like this. All right. So any questions before we finish up? Has this been useful? There's lots going on at the moment. If you're feeling a bit crazy or a bit all over the place, I understand, I empathize. I think, 2 days ago I was in tears about 5 times throughout the day, just random stuff. So it's challenging times, and this is a time to really find your tribe, to stick together, to gather with people that you connect with in business and in your personal life. Be around other people who can support you. Jay, awesome. Priscilla, awesome. Great. Goody. Thank you for joining us today. So if you're keen to join the next workshop, it's on this week. So that's Friday morning at 9 a.m. Brisbane time, and I think it's 4 p.m. Los Angeles time on Thursday. So that's the Natural Communication Workshop. I run these workshops every single month, and they're on a subscription basis. You can join for as little as $20 a month, and you get live interaction with me. You can ask questions on the call. We actually go through guidance from nature, of course, about how to plan out your month, how to get the most out of that theme for each month. This month, it's communication. So how are we going to do that differently? So that's it from me today. I will see some of you at the workshop on Friday. So lots of love for now, and I'll see you next time.